Welcome back to Politique News. We bring you the geopolitical analysis that cuts through the noise. I am your host, ASTRID CARTER. Today we are examining a breaking development that is sending shockwaves through the global defense and economic sectors. As the conflict involving the United States, Israel, and Iran enters its third highly volatile week, the Pentagon has initiated a massive military maneuver. United States officials have confirmed that an amphibious-ready group, led by the assault ship USS Tripoli, along with roughly 2,500 Marines, is officially en route to the Middle East. This constitutes one of the most significant American troop movements to the region in recent history. The immediate question echoing through the halls of Washington, Tehran, and allied capitals worldwide is this: is the United States simply bolstering its defensive posture, or are we witnessing the staging ground for a much wider, catastrophic regional war? The stakes could not be higher. We are talking about the deployment of advanced warships, elite expeditionary forces, and fifth-generation fighter jets into an active combat theater. But how did this escalation reach such a fever pitch? And what does this deployment mean for the everyday citizens caught in the crossfire of this multi-billion-dollar geopolitical standoff? Let us dive into the facts. To understand the gravity of this deployment, we first have to look at the board. Over the past 3 weeks, the Middle East has descended into a state of open kinetic warfare. Following a severe breakdown in deterrence, the United States and Israel have launched relentless targeted strikes against Iranian military installations and strategic energy sectors, including the obliteration of targets on Karg Island, the absolute nerve center of Iran's oil export economy. In retaliation, the Islamic Republic has not only continued to launch barrages of drones and ballistic missiles, but it has actively targeted global shipping and energy infrastructure in the Persian Gulf. Enter the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. Normally based in Okinawa, Japan, under the United States Indo-Pacific Command, this heavily armed rapid response force has been urgently redirected from the waters of the Pacific to the Middle East. They are traveling aboard a multi-ship amphibious-ready group led by the USS Tripoli. The Tripoli is not a standard naval vessel. It is an America-class amphibious assault ship, roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. It is carrying dozens of helicopters, MV-22 Osprey tilt-rotor aircraft, and a squadron of F-35B Lightning II stealth fighter jets. The F-35B is a short takeoff and vertical landing aircraft, meaning it can operate effectively from the smaller deck of the Tripoli. This gives the United States Marine Corps the ability to establish localized air superiority, conduct precision strikes, and gather advanced intelligence in heavily contested airspace. Furthermore, the MV-22 Ospreys can transport troops and equipment farther and faster than conventional helicopters, meaning these Marines can reach targets deep inland if required. A Marine Expeditionary Unit is highly specialized. While they are fully equipped to conduct amphibious coastal landings and ground combat operations, they are also trained for rapid crisis response, tactical recovery of aircraft, embassy reinforcement, and civilian evacuations. When a force of this magnitude is moved across the globe, it is a definitive signal. The Pentagon claims this deployment, requested by United States Central Command, is intended to provide commanders with an expanded menu of military options. It does not automatically guarantee that a ground invasion is imminent. However, in the fog of war, military capability often dictates the tempo of escalation. The immediate flashpoint for this deployment is a narrow, heavily trafficked waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. This geographic bottleneck connects the Persian Gulf to the open ocean and is arguably the most critical maritime choke point on Earth. Roughly 1/5 of the world's total oil consumption passes through this strait every single day. By disrupting maritime traffic here, Iran is pressing its hand against the jugular vein of the global economy. There is a historical precedent for this. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, the tanker war saw both nations attacking commercial shipping, prompting the United States to launch Operation Praying Mantis, the largest American naval surface engagement since the Second World War. But today's geopolitical landscape is vastly different. The United States is not acting in a vacuum. Adversaries like Russia and strategic competitors like China are watching closely. For Russia, whose economy relies heavily on energy exports, a spike in global oil prices caused by a Middle Eastern conflict is a strategic windfall, helping fund its own ongoing military operations. For China, the stakes are opposite but equally critical. Beijing imports a massive percentage of its energy through the Strait of Hormuz. While China has historically relied on the United States Navy to police global shipping lanes, a destabilized Middle East threatens China's economic engine. This forces a dangerous calculus. Will Beijing step in diplomatically or perhaps eventually militarily if the United States cannot secure the region? As with all geopolitical conflicts, there are conflicting narratives at play locally, and it is vital to examine them objectively. From the perspective of Washington, this deployment is a necessary projection of strength and a defensive shield. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and military planners argue that Iran's aggression must be checked to protect international freedom of navigation and to defend the thousands of American troops already stationed across Iraq, Syria, and the broader Gulf region. From this angle, deploying the Tripoli is about deterrence. It is about protecting the global economy from being held hostage by Iranian naval mines and drone swarms. But there is another side to this narrative. From the perspective of Tehran, and indeed from the viewpoint of several international observers, the arrival of 2,500 combat-ready Marines is viewed as an overt provocation. Iran's Joint Military Command has issued stark warnings. They have stated clearly that if their own oil infrastructure continues to be hit, they will systematically target all oil, economic, and energy facilities belonging to any nation or company cooperating with the United States in the region. To the Iranian leadership, the American buildup is not deterrence. It is an imperialist encirclement and a direct threat to their national sovereignty. Furthermore, domestic critics within the United States are raising alarms. Across social media and political commentary circles, skepticism is mounting. Some argue that labeling this an expeditionary or defensive force is merely a bureaucratic smokescreen for staging a ground invasion. They point to the legacy of the past 2 decades, from the invasion of Iraq to the prolonged occupation of Afghanistan. The American public is deeply fatigued by foreign interventions. Critics across both sides of the political aisle are demanding transparency from the Pentagon, demanding to know the exact endgame of this deployment. What defines a victory in this scenario? Is it the complete dismantling of Iran's military capabilities, or simply a return to an uneasy, heavily militarized status quo? History has shown that getting troops into the Middle East is relatively easy. Getting them out is an entirely different matter. But let us not lose sight of the human element. Behind the macroeconomic statistics, the fluctuating oil prices, and the political theater in Washington and Tehran, real people are bearing the brunt of this instability. In the Middle East, the civilian toll is already catastrophic. In Lebanon, the humanitarian crisis has deepened, with reports indicating nearly 800 people killed and over 850,000 displaced as the conflict ripples outward. For the American military families stationed back home, this deployment brings an agonizing wave of anxiety. Thousands of young men and women aboard those ships are sailing directly into a highly volatile, active war zone where, according to recent reports, over 150 American troops have already been wounded in the wider region. And then there is the global economic impact. When trade routes are choked and oil facilities burn, it is rarely the politicians who pay the ultimate price. It is the ordinary citizen. Working families around the world are bracing for the inevitable shockwaves at the gas pump and the grocery store. A sustained disruption in the Strait of Hormuz could trigger a global recession, exacerbating inflation and destroying livelihoods thousands of miles away from the Persian Gulf. This brings us to a critical crossroads in global politics. The United States is flexing its unparalleled naval power, deploying a massive, lethal force to contain an escalating crisis. But military might alone cannot solve the deep-rooted systemic hostilities of the Middle East. This leaves us with a set of thought-provoking questions for you, our viewers. Are we witnessing a necessary defense of global stability, or the dangerous opening moves of a wider regional war that could draw in global superpowers? Can an amphibious assault ship and 2,500 Marines truly deter a nation that feels its very survival is on the line? Or does this deployment only guarantee a deadlier confrontation? And finally, is the United States prepared to absorb the staggering human and economic costs of another prolonged conflict in the Middle East? We want to hear your perspective. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get a conversation started. If you appreciate factual, deep-dive political journalism that looks at every angle without the sensationalism, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you never miss a report. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and keep asking the hard questions. I am ASTRID Carter, and this is Politique News.